I have here the lightest fully enclosed tent that you can buy. The Zpacks Plex Solo takes a tried and true design and makes it even lighter with unique design features. I'm all about ultralight products and reducing the weight that I'm carrying when I'm backpacking, but does the Plex Solo take it too far? Is it sacrificing too much in order to achieve that crazy lightweight? There's a lot to like about the Plex Solo, starting with the weight. On my scale, it weighs 389 grams, which is lighter than the 395 grams that Zpacks advertises. With the really lightweight stuff sack, it weighs 396 grams on my scale. For comparison, one of the most popular one-person tents at REI, the Big Agnes Copper Spur 1P, weighs 3 times as much as the Plex Solo. The way the Plex Solo achieves the super lightweight is because of the material that it's made of. It's made of Dyneema composite fabric, which we'll get into a little bit later, but then it also has a very unique cut to the Dyneema fabric. So you can see that there's a seam that goes along the ridge of the tent right here, and then the entire backside of the tent is made with one sheet of Dyneema. Normally on other tents like the Plex Solo, like the Ultiplex, you'll have seams coming down at least 3 or 4 times, and that adds a lot of weight to the tent. It packs up pretty small, about the size of a 1-liter pot if you're really good at rolling it up, or if you're not good at rolling it up like I am, it's gonna be a little bit bigger. Setup of the tent is pretty easy. It takes me about a minute or 2 to set up, very quick. I am used to trekking pole tents, which this one is. Instead of using traditional tent poles, the Plex Solo uses a trekking pole to provide its structural support. At minimum, it takes 6 pegs to set the tent up, but if you wanna maximize the space inside of the tent, then it takes 10. The tent is quite roomy inside, even with a 3.25-inch sleeping pad, a 20-degree quilt on top, and a pillow. I can lay down in there and have tons of room at my head and my foot. As well, there's a lot of room on the side of the tent, so if you wanted to bring your pack inside the tent with you, then that wouldn't be a problem either. Headroom is solid. I can sit up in the tent, no problem. Another nice aspect of the tent, if you are caught out in the rain, is that the door has a lot of overhang. So you can actually leave your doors open if it's raining straight down, and you're not gonna get the inside of the tent wet at all. If it's raining sideways, then the tent does have 2 doors. I have both doors open right now, but if you wanted to, you could open up one of the doors and then just put your pack underneath that in order to keep it dry, or you could close up both doors if you really wanted to bunker down. You'll notice that there's no zipper on the door, but the overlap is enough in my experience to keep out any rain. If you want to block some wind, or if it's raining and you're getting a lot of splashback into the tent, which I've never had an issue with, then Zpacks installed these elastic cinches here so you can pull up the bathtub floor and block a little bit more wind or splashback. Like I said, the tent is made with Dyneema fabric. The fly is made with a 0.55 ounce per square yard Dyneema, whereas the floor is made with a thicker 1 ounce per square yard Dyneema. And there's a bunch of benefits with Dyneema fabric. First of all, as you could probably guess, the weight, it's a very lightweight fabric, but is also very strong. But my favorite benefits with Dyneema fabric is that it doesn't absorb any water. So if it does rain, you're not gonna have a whole bunch of absorption into the material like you would with sil nylon. And then if you do have a little bit of condensation on the inside, you can really easily wipe that down and then squeeze it out. Durability wise, I haven't had any problems with the Plex Solo in the dozen or more days that I've had in it, and I hadn't had any problems with my Ultiplex, which is a very similar tent and made with similar materials, and I've had over 60 days on that. The one issue that I have had is right at the corner here where a whole bunch of seams meet, the seams tape is starting to peel a little bit, and I've just had to kind of push it down and then it's stuck no problem. And if you need to, Dyneema is really easy to repair. Zpacks sends you Dyneema repair tape, and you could just put that on there. Or if you get a puncture anywhere on the tent, you can repair it with that repair tape as well. While the tent is fairly roomy, it's not gonna be big enough for everyone. I'm 5'10", and I have tons of room in here, but I think if you're over 6'2", you're probably gonna start running into issues with length. It is a 1-person tent, so keep that in mind. For me, I find it plenty of room, and I used a 1-person tent like the Plex Solo for 36 days while I was out on the Great Divide Trail, and I felt like I had more than enough room. But I know a lot of you out there get a little bit claustrophobic, and a 2-person tent may be a better option even if you are going out solo. We've talked about a couple negatives with the Plex Solo already. Let's fully dive into what's bad about this tent. First up, the price. The Plex Solo costs $600 US, which is not cheap when compared to similar tents made with traditional materials like sil nylon or sil poly. Airflow can also be an issue. You only have one door, so you can't create a cross draft. And if you have both of the door flaps closed up, then you're not gonna be getting a lot of airflow through the tent, and that can lead to a bit more condensation. That being said, every tent will deal with condensation in the right conditions. If you can fit into the Plex Solo, prioritize weight savings, and have the budget to afford it, then I think the Plex Solo is the best single-person ultralight tent on the market. If you want to round out your ultralight setup, go check out this video where I talk about my favorite ultralight gear.